Hi, I'm Art Bergeron, and the presentation you're about to see is the one that I've recorded for presentation in Hopkinton this month. This presentation is about planning for the last year of your life, which you may be experiencing right now, and you just don't know it. So there are some things that you want to plan for, even though unless you just drop dead, that's one thing. But it may very well be that the last year of your life, you're incapacitated, for example, and can't make decisions. So you want to be kind of figuring out and telling people what to do and kind of getting ready. So that's the point of the presentation. I hope you enjoy it. And with me is my good friend, Amy Beck, to tell you about the many things that are always going on at the Senior Center in Hopkinton, but especially this month in September. Amy, what is going on?
Great. Well, hi, Arthur. Thank you. A lot of things are going on at the Senior Center, as always. The best source of information is our newsletter, and I do this every month, but here it is. This is what it looks like. But one of the biggest things that we have, and we're doing our first one, is a repair cafe. And so sometimes you have that lamp that just doesn't work anymore, or you need your knives sharpened, or just little things that need to be done. You can give us a call. Our repair cafe is scheduled for Saturday, September 24th from 9 to 12. We do need to know that you're coming because it helps us prepare for having the right person that is there. And we're talking small repairs. I know that there will be someone who can help with knife sharpening. I know that we have some, the light switch that doesn't work. And so we can advise you as what to bring so that you're ready for it. But that's one of the biggest things we have coming up. So I really hope you check out our newsletter and read more about it. But also, the newsletter is a wealth of information as far as exercises and coming in for lunch. We have our menu there every day. So check it out.
So, Amy, that is a fabulous idea. Who thought that up? The repair thing. That's really
well,
good.
I will tell you, we tried to do it in spring of 2020. Yeah. And we all know what took place then, that kind of put everything on hold. So we're trying again. So hopefully you can join us on September 24th. But again, make sure you read the newsletter, see what we're doing. We are not doing anything like small engine repairs. So don't bring your lawnmower. We're not able to do that. But little things that we can help with to make it easier.
That's great. Helping you stay at home live in your house until you die, right?
Well, yes, I guess that's one way to put it.
That's a wonderful thing.
To reach us, give us a call at 508-497-9730.
And if you got any questions on the seminar, give me a call, 508-860-1470. Amy, always a pleasure. And I love going down there. I'm there every month. It's like every month there's more people. It's just astonishing because everybody feels so good there. I mean, there's just a sense of people walking in the door really being welcome there. So it's just a wonderful place. So go see them. If you haven't been, you got to go see them. Thank you very much, Amy. And folks, I hope you enjoy the presentations, and we'll see you next month. Thank you. Hi, I'm Art Bergeron, and welcome to this month's seminar. This month, we're going to talk about something that every senior should talk about, because when you get to be our age, and by the way, I'm turned 72 this year, I get it. When you get to be our age, you realize that your life is finite, that you may have some years to live, you may have a lot of years to live, but you have kind of a limited number of years to live. And so the goal is to help you think about what you need to think about at this time in terms of kind of the end of your life, but not just the end of your life, really the last year of your life. Now, I always talk about my friends Frank and Mary and their kids Peter, Paul, and Mary Jr., and their goal in life was always and remains to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. Now, Frank and Mary in today's example are 75 years old. If that's the case, then Frank has an actuarial life expectancy right now of a little over 11 years, and Mary has a life expectancy of almost 13 years. In other words, using the standard, the national life expectancy charts, if Frank is 75 right now, he should live until he is 86, or he is actuarially likely to live until he's 86, and Mary is actuarially likely to live until she's 87. But of course, stuff happens. Frank right now may be living the last year of his life because he could get hit by a truck tomorrow, or Mary could fall into the swimming pool and
then that's that, and then your life is over. So there's always that possibility. Of course, those are really remote possibilities. And of course, as far as Frank and Mary is concerned, if you ask them, well, you know you're going to die. What are you thinking? And they'll really say, well, really, we want to die. We want to both fall asleep in bed and never wake up. And that is, that's what they hope for, or maybe what they pray for. But prayer is kind of not an option, right? That may be what happens, but it is extremely unlikely. So I do nothing but elder law work, and so I deal with a lot of folks who are frail or dying or die. And I actually have, on average, about one of my clients dies about every 2 weeks. I have about 2,000 clients, and they're all seniors. And so, kind of do the math. That means that somebody is going to be dying probably pretty regularly. I have not seen a single person who simply was doing great and healthy and just died in bed. Not in the last year. Maybe over the last 5 years, there was one person who, oh my God, we went to find Ma, and she was feeling great, and all of a sudden she's dead. Well, no, that's not how you die. So I want to talk a little bit about death, about that last year in relation to how you might die. So the most common causes of death are cancer, Alzheimer's disease, heart attacks or strokes, and failure to thrive. What is failure to thrive? If you talk to medical folks, they will tell you that when they're dealing with seniors, for every senior who is not otherwise dying of a specific thing, cancer is killing them, they just had their 5th stroke, the folks at some age will just start breaking down. Things will just stop working as well as they were working before. One thing leads to another. You got one problem that leads to some other problem. You get pneumonia, you come back, you're not feeling great. They refer to that as failure to thrive. It's just kind of a code term for you're probably going to be dying at some time soon, and in the meantime, your body is kind of preparing for that, right? Now, in 3 out of these 4 cases, everything except heart attack and stroke, your death is going to come after some period of time. So there's going to be a period of time where you're going to be experiencing the last year of your life. It used to be, when we were growing up, that in the case of heart attack or stroke, that wasn't the case. Remember we were growing up, you'd hear that someone had a heart attack and they just died, or someone had a stroke and they just died. The statistic is that back in 1970, if you had a heart attack or a stroke, your likelihood of living for more than another couple of weeks was like 33%. Excuse me, your likelihood of dying within the next couple of weeks was 33%. That statistic is now 3%. 3%. Because if you have a stroke or a heart attack, there are EMTs, there's ambulances, there's life flights, there's stents, there's all this stuff that keeps you from dying. Now, you're not going to feel as good as you were before that heart attack or that stroke, chances are, right? You're going to be weakened. And the typical course for folks who have those diseases is they'll have events, they'll recover, but not to the extent they were recovered before, and then they'll have another event, they'll go downhill. So in most cases, the vast majority of cases, you're going to have a period of time before you die where you're going to be frail. And there are different measures of frail. Frail may be bedridden. Frail may be just having trouble getting around, and so you're using a walker all the time and you're needing to sit down more because you're really tired. There are a whole number of things that could define frail, but what I guess I'm suggesting is that you want to be prepared for the possibility that you may become frail. And while you could postpone all of that until later, until you're actually frail, it has been my experience that people who do that find themselves causing themselves and their family a whole lot of stress that really wouldn't have been necessary if they had been paying attention to this stuff or had a sense of this before they got frail. So I want to talk about that. So how can you kind of prepare to be frail? First you want to kind of know who the potential home care providers may be for you if you get frail. Because if you get frail, it may be that you're going to need somebody to help you out at home. Now, One possibility, and the most common one cited by my clients, is their kids. Oh, my kids are going to help me out. I know they've always told me they're going to help me out, and that's great. And it may be that they will help you out. It has been my experience that typically when you hear those words from kids, you can count on the girls more than the boys, just kind of in general. I have a lot more designated daughters in the world than I have designated sons. Certainly, if you're Frank and Mary, you have vowed you're going to take care of each other, right? Sickness and in health. Except that, remember, Frank and Mary are about the same age. So if one of them is getting sick, there's a really good chance that at that age, the other one isn't feeling so great either. And that even if they're feeling okay, they may not have just the physical strength or the stamina to take care of the other spouse all the time. I always tell my clients, I have many clients who are, for example, taking care of a spouse who has dementia. And I'll always tell these clients, the worst thing that you can do for your husband or your wife is to drop dead, which is what happens. People will not necessarily drop dead as we were talking, but they'll have a heart attack or they'll have a stroke and become really weakened from overexertion taking care of the spouse. So you want to kind of know who those home care providers are in your area so that you'd have a sense of like who to call. Second, you want to be kind of looking at your house. Remember, Frank and Mary's goal is to live in their house until they die. But remember, their needs when they're living in that house may change if they start getting frail. The second floor of the house may end up becoming useless if you can't get up the stairs, or if you can get up the stairs, but you're worried that then you might fall down the stairs, right? Remember the washer dryer that's like in the basement? No, that's not going to work if you're getting frail. I actually had clients, well, this was an unusual case. I had 2 clients who actually did die within relatively close to each other. One of them basically died falling down the stairs to the basement to go get the laundry, and the other died shortly after actually also falling down the stairs. So you want to make sure that the house is such that you can live in it safely. I always tell people it's great that you want to live in your house as long as it's safe, because you don't want that fall in your house to cause you to be in this frail stage for longer than you have to be, or to die. So you want to be looking at the house. You want to be figuring out whether there are any kinds of repairs to the house that you want to be doing because something's just not working now, or modifications so that the house will be equipped to handle things if you get frail. At the very least, one of the reasons for kind of figuring this stuff out is you can get a sense of the cost of doing that stuff. For example, the example I often give is that folks, there was always this issue of getting to the second floor, and one option was always an elevator. But people would say, an elevator, and roll their eyes, and that's, how much is that? It's not like, and it used to be, it was like $150,000, huge cost for an elevator. We have relatives actually who live in Maryland. The parents of my son-in-law, who had, and one of the wife is gotten frail, and so they installed an elevator in their house, standard issue, kind of a 4-bedroom colonial, and it cost them like $40,000. And it's this wonderful elevator, and it blends in architecturally. So the point is, there are these adaptations that you would not necessarily know about if you're not in the construction industry, right? Or in the industry that is dealing with helping seniors figure out how to modify their homes. So you want to think about that. Third, you want to figure out whether, and this may apply because you're getting frail now, or you're just thinking, you may in the future, you may want to look around at the assisted living communities that have sprung up around you. I remember my mother ended up dying in a nursing home back in the 1990s, but back then there were no options to home other than a nursing home, right? You remember assisted living, what in the world was that? Well, now, I don't want to say that they're everywhere, but there are a lot of assisted living communities in a lot of areas. I know that for my folks who live on Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, where I do a lot of work, your options on assisted living are more limited unless you're willing to move off the island. There is a wonderful place on Nantucket called Sherburne Commons. There isn't another kind of regular assisted living on Martha's Vineyard right now, although there is a wonderful place called the Henrietta Brewer House if you're really getting frail. But the point is, you want to look at what your options are and just kind of be realistic about those options, right? And you want to be thinking, so at that point, is that the point at which you would want to be moving closer to one of your children? Not necessarily in with one of your children if you want to keep your privacy, but in an assisted living community that's closer to one of your children. I know that there are several assisted living communities that have been built in the area, in Marlborough, in the area around Marlborough where my wife and I live. And I know I had actually been involved in the permitting of many of those. And I remember initially, the first ones that were proposed, it was assumed that they were all going to be occupied by local folks who just wanted to stay in the community. I know that the statistics actually are that most of these places are occupied primarily by folks who moved into this area to be close to one of their children. So you may want to kind of look at what those options are. And finally, and I know this sounds like not a great time but you may want to look around at the nursing home possibilities, so that if you become frail to the extent that you really can't live safely except in a place where there are nurses available all the time, you want to kind of know what those options are. So you want to kind of figure that out. You want to, and by the way, I'm just going to mention one other thing, which is the hospital. I know many people moved away from this area in their earlier retirement and then moved back because because the medical care in this area is so good. And I know even on the islands, you know, even on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, I know they kind of, you bemoan the fact that you're in an island and there's only the small hospital, but both hospitals are connected and owned by Mass General Brigham, so that you've got, you know, fairly quick access to unbelievably good care. So you want to kind of be figuring that part out. So you want to get that right, and then you want to build your own team. You want to make sure that there are a set of players who can help you figure this out if you're having to go through this. And the three that I would really stress are, first of all, a geriatric care manager. Geriatric care managers, if you've never heard of this term, are folks who typically former nurses or social workers who've decided that that's what they want to do for a living, is help seniors develop and implement care plans. And their job is to help you figure out for yourself and help your family work with you to figure out what you currently need or what you may need in the near future, and then talk to you about what the options are. The great geriatric care manager is the one who is really living in or very close to the community, has dealt with all of the various care professionals, has gone to all the assisted livings, knows the nursing homes, knows the home care agencies, and can make some recommendations regarding what's good and what isn't. So you really want a geriatric care manager. A PCP is really important. Your primary care provider I know the primary care provider role has changed over our lives, certainly, and certainly over the last 20 years, because increasingly the hospitals have become the employers of a lot of doctors. And increasingly doctors have assembled into larger practices. But it would really, I'm sure that you're obviously concerned about this yourself. You really want to be knowing that you have a primary care provider whom you're comfortable with and who is interested in your needs. And if you don't have that, then you may want to move to a different primary care provider. And once again, you don't want to be moving or trying to figure out how to move away from someone with whom you're not comfortable in the middle of an emergency. You want to be dealing with that now. And finally, you probably want to talk to and develop a relationship with an elder law attorney. That doesn't mean spending a boatload of money necessarily on new estate planning documents or any of this other stuff, but it means kind of getting to know somebody who specifically deals with seniors a lot and with the issues that seniors face. Once again, that's the kind of person that you or your spouse or your kids are going to be calling in an emergency. You would ideally like to know that in that emergency, that elder law professional already understands your situation and understands the family dynamic. It's just going to be very, very helpful. So there are players that you need to know. Then you need to know or you should acquaint yourself with programs that may be relevant to you. And once again, you could wait until you're frail in order to do this, or you could try to familiarize yourself with this ahead of time. There are a lot of programs, but I'm just going to talk about 3. One, the so-called 60-day order. Medicare, and specifically Medicare A, which is the piece of Medicare for which there are minimal deductibles, covers a handful of basic services. One of them is the hospital. Another, though, and by the way, Medicare also will cover a short stay in a nursing home. The idea behind Medicare is that it's supposed to help you get better if you're sick. So if you're sick, they're gonna pay for that hospital with some parameters, and then they're going to pay to help you get better if you need to go to a skilled nursing facility in order to get better. So they'll pay for up to 100 days. But in addition to that, there is a benefit of which many people are not aware, through which if your doctor certifies that you are homebound and therefore cannot go to the hospital to get outpatient services, that the doctor, typically in conjunction with the Visiting Nurses Association or the nurse that you've worked with, can prescribe care to you at home. It can be nursing care, it can be physical therapy, occupational therapy. The care that is being provided, because it's being provided through Medicare, has to really have a medical component to it. So this is not a program that would help you if you needed simply home care because you needed help just kind of getting around the house, or help with showering or toileting or whatever. But if you need more care than that, especially if you've had one of these medical problems, but not necessarily a problem that caused you to have to go to the hospital, then the doctor can prescribe one of these 60-day plans. These plans, if at the end of 60 days you still need help at the home, the doctor can extend that. So these can be 60-day plans that extend literally infinitely into the future, and can provide not only with physical therapy, occupational therapy, but also durable medical equipment, things that you may need if you are really homebound. The second program, and the program that people so often just close their eyes or turn their heads, or, oh, this isn't relevant to me, I'm not about to die, is the hospice program. So Medicare also provides a benefit specifically for people who have decided that they, not necessarily that they're going to die tomorrow, but that the care that they want is care that is going to provide for a better quality of their lives and maximize the quality of their lives, versus care that is being provided to cure you, even if the side effects of that cure is that you're really going to be pretty miserable during the time that they're trying to cure you. So the hospice benefit is a great benefit if you're in that part of your life. Let's talk about the last year of your life, where you're feeling like, I've had cancer, now it's come back. Our doctor is saying there are these aggressive forms of therapy that I can use, but I know what that means. It's nausea and it's weakness. I don't want to go there. In that situation, the hospice benefit is really a terrific benefit. Similarly, if you're failing to thrive, do you really want to be spending the last year of your life mostly in the hospital, or mostly in and out of the hospital, or in the hospital, or in physical therapy and doing stuff? If you know that you're in the last year of your life, that you're not feeling great, that you just want your life to be as good as possible, that's where the hospice benefit can really help you. It can provide for a lot of care at home. In that case, can actually provide some home care folks. It's a wonderful benefit. It also provides counseling to your family around dealing with any of these issues. So the key to this benefit is it's a Medicare benefit, so you're not paying for it. It's not out of pocket. It's Medicare, so there are no asset restrictions or anything else. And it's available to you if your doctor says that in the normal course of your whatever you have, whether you are failing to thrive or whether you have a particular illness, that in the normal course of things that you may die within the next 6 months. So it's a benefit that is really useful to you in the last year of your life. You should remember though, you don't have to die in order to get the benefit. You only have to have the doctor say that you may die within the next 6 months. So, and at the end of the 6 months, if you're still alive, that's okay. The doctor can simply extend this, right? As a matter of fact, I think there was a friend of mine told me a statistic that something like 28 or 30% of all people who get the hospice benefit graduate. That is, they get to the point where they're no longer using the hospice benefit anymore because they kind of get better. So don't assume that you just want to not even think about hospice because, oh my God, that's just if I'm about to die. You know, I'm tragically, the typical hospice benefit patient uses hospice for less than 20 days. And the benefit, once again, is available in 6 month increments forever. So there's the hospice benefit. Finally, there's the Mass Health Frail Elder Waiver Program. Frail Elder Waiver Program is designed if you're Frank or Mary and you want to stay home and you don't want to go to a nursing home, and your doctor and the folks at the ASAP, the Aging Services Access Point, which is Bay Path Elder Services or Springwell here in the greater than Marlborough area, it is Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands on Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. If in their opinion you can live safely at home, in that case, you can if you qualify for that benefit medically and also financially, you can, Mass Health, the Massachusetts name for the Medicaid program, will provide a lot of care for you at home, as much as 40 hours a week. So it's an ideal benefit for someone who is frail, who has maybe a spouse or kids who are helping out so that they don't need 24-hour care, but they would really benefit from having some care every day. So it's a great benefit. So you should look at that. You can investigate that benefit now. It is an asset-based benefit. So in order to qualify, the sick person has to have less than $2,000 in countable assets. But if you're Frank and Mary, all of the assets can be shifted to the healthy spouse at the last minute before you're qualified. And as opposed to the nursing home benefit, which you cannot get if you've given away assets within the last 5 years, Mass Health at this point does not impose a look-back period regarding assets that are transferred out to the non-spouse, say to the kids. So you can typically qualify for this benefit fairly quickly after you have even if you've had some assets, as long as you've transferred them away. So you want to talk about that. Finally, who is implementing this plan? Well, basically it's you, right? But you want to make sure that if you're incapacitated that you have the documents, so the person implementing the plan is the person you trust. That relates to 4 documents. Your power of attorney. Your power of attorney is going to give somebody the ability to make medical or to make legal decisions for you, financial and other, if you're incapacitated. You need someone you can trust to do that. Typically it's your spouse, but if your spouse is really getting older too, you may want to name one of your kids or more of your kids. On that document, you can name several of them jointly and severally, so any one of them can handle your affairs. Regarding your healthcare proxy, you want to make sure there's somebody there who can make medical decisions for you if you're not available or competent to do it. That's typically the spouse, but as you get older, increasingly you may want to name your child instead. It may be that your spouse doesn't want to have to dealing with doctors all the time. If you get sick, you'd rather have one of your kids doing it. In the case of the healthcare proxy, you can only name one person at a time. There may be a set of people who, even though they're not named as your healthcare proxy, because once again you can only name one at a time, you want to have participating in those decisions. In that case, you need to do HIPAA designations, so-called the Healthcare Portability and Accountability Act, which limits the ability of your doctors and your medical providers to talk to anybody about your situation unless you've specifically authorized them to do so. Once again, you can name a number of people to do that. Finally, there's the MOLST form. This is a form that would be signed by your doctor, but assented to by you, and you should talk to your doctor about it, that gives some orders about what should happen, especially in an emergency situation. If your heart has stopped, do you really want folks to try to start it again, even though you know that you're frail and it's the last year of your life? Do you really want to go through that pain, or do you want to die? If you've stopped breathing, would you rather just stop breathing and die? Or do you really at that point want the doctors to try to make you start breathing again despite your other conditions? Do you want to die at home? In that case, on that form, the MOLST form, you want to say that you do not want to be transported to a hospital if an EMT or somebody else, some other medical person shows up at your house because you've had an incident. You want to stay at home. So once you've done all that stuff, finally, have the conversation. Have the conversation with the people you've named as your healthcare proxy, as your power of attorney. Talk to folks about how you want to be treated during that last year of your life, because during that time, you may not be competent to make those decisions. So these are the kinds of conversations you want to have ahead of time. The goal of all of this is to help you sleep at night. If you have worries about any of these issues, you should address them. If you want to see this presentation or any of the others that I've done, you can always go to my YouTube channel, Elder Law, Frank and Mary. Thank you very, very much, and please let me know if you have any questions. My direct line is 508-860-1470. Thank you.